All right, we continue on this subject. For that, let's bring in Luke Coffey. He's a director at Douglas and Sarah Allison Centre for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to you, Luke. As Julia said, we are waiting to see what's been said by Russia and the US in a press conference and a final statement. But in your opinion, without seeing those final statements and press conference, do you think anything has come out of this? And do you think the US can stand up to President Putin and those incredible demands that he's mentioned, such as NATO not being able to expand east? I mean, how do you get away with saying something like this?
Well, exactly. And it's highly unlikely that anything meaningful is going to come out of these talks today or even in the near future. And I have to say that considering that the state of European security is being discussed in Geneva by a country, the United States, that's in North America, and then, of course, Russia, without any other Europeans being present, especially the Ukrainians, I think sends the wrong message to our European partners and allies, especially in NATO. And these lists of demands presented by Russia are so outrageous that they're either designed either as some sort of negotiating tactic to hopefully negotiate down to something that's more realistic, or they're designed to fail to give Russia an excuse towards their public, at least, to take further military action against Ukraine.
And do you think President Putin has that appetite to take military action against Ukraine? Does he really want to?
Well, that remains to be seen. And with events in Kazakhstan that we have seen over the past several days, this has added a new variable to the whole situation. In many ways, the situation in Ukraine and the situation in Kazakhstan are connected in the sense that Russia can only do so many things in so many places at one time. And when you look at what Russia's doing in Syria, in Libya, with their new military commitment in Nagorno-Karabakh, and now with the situation in Kazakhstan, I think this will this adds an unknown factor into how this will all play out. But Russia has shown repeatedly in the past that if it feels like its national interests are violated, if it feels like its national interests are at stake, they're more than willing to use military force, like we saw in 2008 in Georgia, like we saw in 2014 in Ukraine, and like we've seen in places like Syria.
But Ukraine is a sovereign country. Could there be a Ukrainian uprising? Could Ukraine stop Russia or even attempt to?
Absolutely. And I think this is the issue that's not being discussed very much, especially here in Washington, D.C. The Ukrainians are not asking for American soldiers to come and defend them. The Ukrainians want and can defend themselves. They just want the defensive weapons, like the TB2 drones that Turkey has provided, or more anti-tank missiles that the U.S. has provided in the past. They want more of these defensive weapons, not to go on the attack against Russia, but to defend themselves. You know, we shouldn't forget that around 400,000 Ukrainians have fought on the front lines in Donbass since 2014. The Ukrainian army is far more capable, trained, equipped, and manned than it was in 2014. And it could provide a stiff resistance to Russia. And I think Russia is factoring this in as well.
Luke Coffey, you raised some very interesting points that I've not heard yet. Thank you so much for your analysis. We really appreciate it.